Verse 261 of Surat al-Baqarah. The example of those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah is like a seed of grain, which grows 0.7 spikes. In each spike is 100 grains. And Allah multiplies His reward for whom He wills. And Allah is all-encompassing and knowing. Interpretation of verse 261 of Surat al-Baqarah. The following verses, from verse 261 to verse 274, talk about spending in the way of God Almighty, and it includes money, and all the provisions that God Almighty provides to man. In these verses, God gives us many examples, as God Almighty gives examples of tangible things so that we can understand the meaning of the verses. God gave us an example of spending in the way of God Almighty, and God Almighty likened spending in the way of God to the believer planting a grain of wheat, and it grows 7 ears, and in each ear there is 100 grains, meaning that the total grains are 700 grains in the 7 ears, and God doubles this number if He wants to double it. Likewise, the one who spends in the way of God plants goodness in the souls of people and plants affection, mercy, and love among people, because God Almighty has expanded provision. He increases the believer's fruits from what he plants of goodness from what he spends, and gives charity with sincerity, and He knows who is sincere in spending and who is not. Verse 262 of Surat al-Baqarah. Those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah, and then do not follow up what they have spent with reminders of it, or other injury, will have their reward with their Lord, and there will be no fear concerning them, nor will they grieve. Interpretation of verse 262 of Surat al-Baqarah. This verse speaks of those who spend their wealth in the way of God without feeling arrogant toward those they have given charity to, or uttering anything that would hurt their feelings. God Almighty reassures them that they should neither fear nor grieve, for He is the guardian of the believers, and is pleased with them. He will admit them into His paradise. Because they spent in the way of God sincerely. And acted according to Islam.